In lesson 3, we're going to move on to dividing a fraction by a fraction. So at the top it says to recall that we can reword a division question in 2 different ways. So if we were looking at the division problem 10 divided by 2, we can say how many groups of 2 are in 10, or we can say 10 is 2 groups of what number. If you recall from yesterday, we decided that this question, the second one, was the easier of the 2 to work with. Today, we're actually going to be using the first question. So how many groups of 2 are in 10? So if we look at the first example, it says 8/9 divided by 2/9. So reworded using that same type of question, it would be saying how many groups of 2/9 are in 8/9. To show this with a model, we would start by drawing 8/9. Whoops, one more. Okay, fill in the 8. I am going to label that this is 8/9. So now it's asking me how many groups of 2/9 are in this 8/9 problem. So I'm going to just start circling groups of 2. So this is 2/9. This is another 2/9. So every 2 make 2/9. And then when it's asking us how many groups of 2/9 are in 8/9, we count the number of groups. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 8/9 divided by 2/9 is 4. We can also show this in another way, and that's the common denominator method. So if you notice, 8/9 and 2/9 have a common denominator. When dividing with fractions, you can divide across numerators and across denominators if possible. So I can do 8 divided by 2, and I can do 9 divided by 9. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 4 over 1 is the same thing as 4. Just to show you a little bit of a shortcut method with this, if I were doing my common denominator method, they both have the same denominator. Notice, anytime you divide a number by itself, you end up with 1. And in fraction world, if we have 1 in our denominator, we typically drop it and write it as a whole number. So what you can actually do is you can actually cancel out your denominators and put your first numerator on top of your second numerator, and then simplify. 8 divided by 2 is 4. If you recall, a fraction is a division problem. Okay, so there are a few different examples that go along with this. This next one is going to show us a little bit different of a problem. Notice the 9/4, our numerator is greater than our denominator. So if I went to draw this, when I draw my fourths and I shade in, I don't have 9/4 yet. I only have 4/4. So what that means is I'd have to draw another group. At this point, I only have 8/4. So I'd need one more in order to get the 9/4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I'm asking how many 3/4 are in 9/4. Okay, so I'm going to start by circling groups of 3/4. And it doesn't really matter how you do this. I personally might look at it and say, oh, here's 3 right in a row, and then I can do this last group as one as well. And 9/4 divided by 3/4 gives me 3 groups. Looking at common denominator method, 9/4 divided by 3/4. They have a common denominator, so I can cancel that out, put my first numerator on top of my second numerator, and simplify. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So either way, I still get the 3. Okay, so now the next one, how many 3/9 are in 7/9? Okay, so I'm going to start by drawing 7/9. And I'm going to circle groups of 3. So here's my 7/9. Here's a group of 3/9. Here's a group of 3/9. And then, I don't have another shaded in group of 3/9. So what I'll do at this point is I'm still going to circle a group of 3, but this time what I'm going to do is when I write what I have, I'm going to write the fraction that's seen within that circle. So I have 3 total pieces, and one of them is shaded in. So that means I have 1/3 of another group of 3. So altogether, I have 1, 2, and 1/3 group. So 7/9 divided by 3/9 is 2 and 1/3. Looking at that as common denominators, 7/9 divided by 3/9. The 9's cancel each other out because 9 divided by 9 is 1. I put my first numerator over my second numerator. And I can either leave this as 7/3 or I can do 7 divided by 3, which gives me 2 and 1/3. Okay, our final example is 2/5 divided by 4/5. So how many 4/5 are in 1/5? Oh, sorry, 2/5. Okay, so what that means is I'm going to start with my 2/5. And I'm going to circle groups of 4. Now, very similar to the leftovers in the previous piece, I don't have enough here. And that's okay. So I'm still going to circle 4 out of those 5. So I'm going to circle 4. And just like I did with the remainder in the previous, I'm just going to write the fraction that's inside this circle. So I have 2 shaded in out of 1, 2, 3, 4 total pieces. This can actually be simplified down to 1/2. Okay, it's always a good idea to simplify your answers. Common denominator, 2/5 divided by 4/5. Cancel out those denominators because they just give you 1. Put your first numerator on top of your second numerator, and then simplify. So I can divide both by 2 and get 1/2. Okay, so now we're starting to incorporate that new idea of the common denominator as well as our models.